Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Reconstruction of Kennedy Street Northwest meeting. We'll begin shortly. We'll take a few more minutes, let a few more people arrive to the meeting, and then we'll get started. My name is Enora Moss, and we'll begin the presentation shortly. Once again, welcome to the Reconstruction of Kennedy Street Northwest meeting. We're going to get started here shortly. We're going to give about 1 more minute, and we will start the presentation. Thank you for joining us this evening. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Once again, my name is Enora Moss. I'm with the Communications Community Outreach Team, TBNA, for this project. It is the Reconstruction of Kennedy Street Northwest meeting, 16th Street Northwest to Georgia Avenue Northwest. Once again, we're excited to have you join us as we present some information to you of this upcoming project. Welcome to our virtual public meeting. There are a few housekeeping rules I do want to go over. This is a recorded meeting. This meeting is open for everyone to enjoy. You can watch this meeting on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/d.videos. It's going to be posted within 7 days once this meeting ends. You can also watch live. We're doing a live stream right now on Facebook, facebook.com/d.dc. If you are having any technical issues at this time, you can give us a call at 202-997-8354, 202-997-8354. At the end of the meeting, we'll have a Q&A session and we'll go over that information shortly. So as you join the meeting, you will notice that you are on mute. You cannot unmute yourself at this time. Throughout the presentation, you will not be able to unmute yourself, but we will allow for you to unmute during the Q&A portion of our meeting. We want to make everything to run smoothly. We don't want any outside auditory disruptions. And so that's why you come in the presentation muted. You will be able to request to speak, and you will be able to use the raise your hand feature, and we'll talk about that coming up shortly. Once again, you are entering the meeting and you are on mute. And to raise your hands, we'll go over that information. We do have closed captioning that is available as well. This allows you, of course, to click the CC icon in the lower left corner of the window to turn on your closed captioning. You'll be able to adjust the appearance of closed captioning for your liking. If you're using WebEx on your mobile phone, you can click the 3 dots, that icon, scroll down to select closed captioning, use that option, and you can toggle the blue switch on for your chance to have that closed captioning appear on your screen. Also, your video camera is off by default, and you will not be able to share video during the presentation. Now, at the end of our presentation, we will offer that Q&A information for you, that Q&A portion of the presentation. Select the three dots in the bottom right side of the WebEx window, select Q&A. A panel is going to appear and you'll be able to ask or select all panelists and type into that text box your question. You can press enter and that question goes out to the Q&A chat. If you are joining via your mobile app or your cell phone for the Q&A, is the question mark icon to access the Q&A to ask a question. If you're on your phone, then you can dial *3 to use the raise your hand function that indicates to the project team that you would like to speak, and we'll unmute you so that you can ask your question. That raise your hand feature that I mentioned earlier, to virtually raise your hand, again, you're going to click the icon on the right side of the WebEx window. There's going to be a little cursor and you can click raise your hand. If you're on your keyboard and you want to use the shorthand keys, Control-Shift-R to raise your hand. That indicates to us that you would like to speak, to ask your question instead of using a Q&A chat. And if you're on your phone, you can dial *3 and that allows us to know that you would like to speak and raise your hand. All right, once again, welcome to the reconstruction of the Kennedy Street Northwest project, 16th Street Northwest to Georgia Avenue Northwest. We're excited to have you. We just wrapped up our housekeeping and we're going to go ahead and get started and review the agenda for this evening. So we're going to meet the team. We'll have our team introduced specifically to you all so you'll get familiar with us. We'll have our project background and engagement history. We'll do our project overview, review our objective, our multimodal intersection improvements, our intersection reconfiguration, as well as go over our public space information, the project schedule, our DC Plug initiative and how all of that ties in together. We'll review the Title VI forms, and then we'll have that Q&A portion that I just talked about. Again, my name is Enora Moss, part of the community outreach team, and we're excited to be here. And I'm going to pass it over to DDOT with Mr. DeWitt.
Thank you, Enora. Welcome everyone again, and thank you for being here today. My name is Dawit Kabede. I'm with DDOT. We're so excited to kick off the construction next week and collaborate with all of you to deliver safety and roadway improvement to the community and the residents. So as you can see it from the slide, DDOT have a dedicated construction team to deliver this project on time, and we kindly ask cooperation from the resident and all stakeholders throughout the duration of the project. With that being said, I would like to introduce the DDOT team and we'll pass the floor to the construction manager so that he can introduce the construction management team as well as the contractor. First, I would like to introduce Ms. Zara Doris. She is a program manager, oversees all design and construction projects in Ward 3 and 4. And Omid Gami, he is a supervisory civil engineer, oversee all the construction projects in Ward 3 and 4. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Dawit Kabede. I'm the project engineer and DDOT point of contact for this project. And Alberta Paul, she is a DDOT communication specialist and assisting all citywide projects. And last but not least, Cornelius Anderson. He is a Ward 4 community engagement specialist, assists all Ward 4 projects. With that, I will pass the floor to Andrew to introduce the construction management team. Andrew.
Thank you, Dawit. Thank you so much. And thank you for the 40 or so attendees to join us tonight. We are very excited to get the construction phase of this project started. As Dawit mentioned, DDOT has engaged a construction management team to support the construction phase and deliver the project on time and within budget. My name is Andrew Lee. I'm the construction manager for this project. I'm with Gannett Fleming. We do also have a full-time resident engineer who's going to be with the community full-time in the field for this project. His name is Nadeem Abbas. He's a resident engineer with Gannett Fleming. And we've also engaged a full support of Tina Boyd and Associate for community outreach and public relations coordination. You heard from the lovely Nora Moss already, and you'll hear from Peyton Manning as well. These two folks are going to be the primary points of contact for you with the public. and we look forward to engaging the community on this project. Last but not least, the contractor that DDOT has contracted for this project is Fort Myers Construction Corporation. They will be also an important partner with us to complete this project. So with that, I'll turn it back to Dawit to go over the project a little bit.
Thank you, Andrew. So I would like to briefly touch on the major milestone during the design phase. So the design of Kennedy Street project from Georgia Avenue to 16th Street began on April 2017, and the design team held an open house on November 2018 to collect all the feedbacks and comments from the public. And after the 65 and 90% design submission on November 2018 and October 2019, the design team presented the 90% design to the public on January 2020 for public review and comments. After receiving and addressing the public comments, the design was finalized on March 2022. But after the design completion, the DC plug initiative was identified and incorporated to this project to avoid the reconstruction of the roadway. So DC plug feeder 15001 design began on February 2022, and open house was held on March 22, and 100% design was submitted on May 2022. So the DC plug team will give us a brief background information about the DC plug initiative at the end of this presentation. Finally, the design completed on December 2020. So now we're here at the construction phase, and we are here to inform you the construction start date and to discuss more about the construction phase of the project. Today is our public kickoff meeting. It's February 22, 2024. Construction will begin in February 26, that is next Monday. Our public outreach team already sent out this information to 2 weeks in advance through several communication methods. And the anticipated construction completion date will be February 2026. Just to give you a brief overview and objective of the project is located in Ward 4 along Kennedy Street from Georgia Avenue to 16th Street Northwest. And the project supports the Mayor's Vision Zero initiative, which is improving the safety and pedestrians as well as the vehicular safety. The project intersected with, as you can see it, 16th Street, 14th Street, and Georgia Avenue, which are already designated as a snow emergency and evacuation routes, while also serving as a primary truck and bus routes. So this project is a continuation of the previous improvement along Kennedy Street from North Capitol Street Northwest to Georgia Avenue. Next slide. So the project will address the deteriorated pavement, upgrading the roadway features, improving overall pedestrian and vehicular safety, improving multimodal connectivity, improve traffic signal and street light, improve drainage and landscaping, provide new improved farmers markets to the community, and reconfigure 2 major intersections, which are Kennedy, 14th and Colorado, and Kennedy, Georgia, and Illinois Avenue. This project also includes DC water main relocation work and installation of DC plug feeder 15001. With that, I will pass the floor to Andrew Lee for a detailed presentation. Andrew.
Thank you, Dawit. I do also want to acknowledge for the folks handling the chat that there is a message in the chat. We hear you, and if somebody could reach out to Commissioner Carson to address his issue. But we're going to move ahead with the presentation. As Nora mentioned, the Q&A period is going to be following the presentation. So we're going to talk a little bit more detail about the exact improvements and a focus on 16th Street. This is a larger overview of this project. The primary improvement that you're going to see is the reconstruction of Kennedy Street, full depth asphalt reconstruction and brand new pavement. Additional improvements, as Dawit mentioned, are what we call focus intersections, which will be new configurations of intersection improvements, primarily focused on improving safety between the pedestrians and the vehicular operations as part of the mayor's Vision Zero program. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so the first intersection that we're going to discuss is at Kennedy, 14th Street, and Colorado. The way we configured these slides is that there's a before, which all of you I'm sure are very familiar. That is the existing condition, and after, which is going to be the improved finished condition. So this intersection is going to see a lot of nuanced improvements and different configuration. Primarily, we're going to eliminate the existing 5-legged intersection to improve safety and vehicular operation. We'll start with Colorado Avenue. Right now, Colorado Avenue intersects with 14th Street through a stop sign south of Kennedy Street. There is going to be a new traffic signal that's going to be installed at that location. We're also going to remove some slip ramps. So as you can see on the after, on 14th Street, there's an existing slip ramp that goes on Colorado Avenue. We're going to eliminate that, and that will aid in reducing vehicular turning speed and improve pedestrian safety. The bus depot, it will be signal control instead of a stop sign. And as part of the overall bicycle-friendly program of the city, bike lanes on 14th Street will be continued through this area. Next slide. So in addition to some of the vehicular and the pedestrian safety improvements, we're also going to utilize this opportunity to construct public space. As part of this community, we understand just how important the farmers market is that occurs primarily through the late spring and the summer months. As part of this project, we are also going to be constructing an open plaza right where Colorado intersects with 14th Street so that the farmer market, portion of the farmer market can be set up at that location. That slip ramp that we're eliminating from 14th onto Colorado, that's going to be turned into a bioretention facility. And bioretention facilities are primarily constructed to control and to capture rainwater and primarily used for flood control. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next intersection, next focus intersection. That's going to be at Georgia, Longfellow and Illinois Avenue. And again, the existing condition is up at the top. As you can see, a lot of stop signs. And the after condition, we're going to put in a traffic signal. So what are some of the safety improvements here? Well, primarily, we want to reduce the speed of vehicles turning left from Georgia onto Illinois. That's going to be done through a nuanced approach with pavement marking. You can see maybe a little bit here, and we can certainly discuss it more in a Q&A. But the pavement marking is going to allow for more storage space from the intersection for vehicles turning left onto Illinois Avenue. We're also going to be implementing several left turn restrictions. Primarily from Illinois onto Georgia, we're going to restrict left turn movement. That's been a safety hazard. And also for southbound vehicles on Georgia onto Illinois during peak AM periods. And as I mentioned, we're also going to be installing a new traffic signal at Georgia and Longfellow Street. Next slide. And Ms. Talib, we got your question, and we will address comments and questions following the presentation. So at that intersection, we're also going to be installing a new public space, open plaza. It's going to be at the corner of Illinois, Georgia, and Longfellow Street. We're excited to be able to deliver this open plaza so that the community can share in it and have open space to partake and enjoy the outdoors. Next slide. All right, so the last intersection I wanted to discuss is Georgia and Kennedy Street. And this is primarily a transit-focused improvement that will occur at this intersection. It's going to be about relocating the bus stops on Georgia to the far side of Kennedy Street to improve pedestrian safety. So you can see where the bus stops are in the before picture and where the new bus stops will be in the after picture. And with the ability to be able to construct new bus facilities, bus transit facilities, we're also going to be providing more space for the transit users and improved amenities such as more benches, more bike racks as part of this improvement. In addition, there are several nuanced pedestrian safety measures that will also be installed at Kennedy in Georgia. And it's primarily going to be lead pedestrian intervals, no turn on red, and left turn restrictions between this very busy intersection at Kennedy and Georgia. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to be in your community, and we're going to be primarily constructing this with the contractor in 4 phases, starting with the phase 1, which is on closest to 16th Street. Phase 1 is going to be where we start, and we're going to move towards Georgia and Illinois Avenue. And there's going to be some overlap. We're trying to get this project done as soon as possible. So we're working with the contractor to overlap construction through some of these phases. I'll talk a little bit about what each phase and what each sub-phase is going to entail. But primarily, I wanted to highlight the direction of the construction and the approximate dates that each of these phases will occur. So phase 1 is going to be from February through August of this year. Phase 2 is going to be May with a little bit of overlap, and phase 1 continue into next year. And phase 3 and phase 4 will round out 2025. Next slide. Okay, so each of those phases is is part of a larger portion, and within each of those phases, there's going to be sub phases, and the design team developed these sub phases to try to minimize impact to the community as much as possible. Keep in mind that we are not changing the geometric constraint of Kennedy Street. Kennedy Street will remain just as wide as it is today. It will get a full depth asphalt reconstruction, but the width of the road does not change. So we have to construct these improvements through each of the phase and each of the sub phase. This is a difficult drawing to see, but primarily what we're going to do as we construct through the sub phases of each larger phase is to close off a portion of Kennedy Street to make the improvements. So that's what that gray area is on the drawing. Okay, next slide. And this detail will provide a little better understanding. Essentially, we're going to be closing off half or approximately half of Kennedy Street with temporary barriers that will define the work area. The travel lane, one travel lane will still remain open, and depending on which subphase we're in, it could be east to west or west to east. But this is the primary detail that we wanted to focus on and how we're going to build this improvement. Next slide. So while we're working on one side, the other side will be open, but the side that we're working on will have to be detoured. And again, we've highlighted a subphase, phase 1A, which shows the general idea about where the detour is going to occur to still allow through traffic from one end Kennedy to the other end. Now, one thing to remember, these subphases are not the length of the phase. After we're done with each subphase, we are going to open the portion that's complete to move on to the second subphase. As an example, phase 1 has close to 8 subphases that will be implemented to minimize impact. But however, we will be working on one side of Kennedy Street and detouring that side. Next slide. Next slide. All right, so rest assured that even though we've closed off while we're working in certain subphases, that access to the resident and the business is our highest priority and will be maintained at all times during the construction. We are here, we want to work with the community, and if there's been any impact, you feel free to reach out to our public relations team and we will work with the individual party to address. The work hours for the contractor will be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday. And as I mentioned, they'll be primarily working behind concrete traffic barriers. So there will be very limited interactions between the work area and the traveling public. And again, I want to emphasize that during each of the subphase, as part of the larger phases, access to the resident and business shall be maintained. As part of this project, we've also set up a project website, which our PR team will share following the presentation. On the website, we will be posting 2-week look-aheads so that the community is aware of where we're going to be moving to and how and when we're going to move to. And in addition, any type of advanced no parking as a result of the work area will provide 72-hour notice so that arrangements can be made while we're in that subphase. So again, as David mentioned, we are very much looking forward to working with the community. Back slide, not yet. We are very much working with the community, and we understand that there may be some inconveniences. So we want to work with you as we complete the much needed safety improvements for this corridor. We anticipate starting next week on February 26th of 2024. This is a 24 months, 2-year project, and we anticipate the construction completion to be 2026. So next, I'm going to hand it off to our DC plug representative. David had mentioned that as part of this project, we're also going to be installing the mayor's initiative to underground overhead utilities, and it's become an integral part of our project as well. And I'm not going to steal the spotlight from Raisha. Raisha, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about the mayor's initiative with DC Plug and this project. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, so my name is Raisha Quarry. I'm with the DC Plug Communications team. I'm going to tell you a little bit about DC Plug's feeder 15001. So we'll start with a quick background. So DC Plug has been coming for a long time. So way back in 2012 under Mayor Vincent Gray is when it started. And then a task force was created to really combat those really large storms that were giving us tons of power outages. So in 2014, we had a few laws passed so that we can get the Electrical Improvement Act. And then it took till 2017 for that law to be amended. Later on in that year, in 2017, we were able to get our first biennial approved for 6 feeders, which are the power lines that we will be undergrounding. In 2020, we got our second biennial approved, and then again in 2022, we got our third biennial approved. So the budget goes as follows. PEPCO's portion is $250 million. The district is responsible for $187.5 million, and then DDOT is responsible for $62.5 million. So like I said, the purpose of the project was to really combat those storms and get the power lines to be more resilient. So DC Plug initiative was created to get 20 of our most vulnerable lines undergrounded in the district. Next slide. All right, so now we're gonna play a video that really explains the undergrounding process of the power lines for DC Plug. So go ahead and push play for me, please.
The District of Columbia has experienced more violent storms in recent years. resulting in extensive power outages. For this reason, the district and PEPCO are working to reduce power outages by moving many of the overhead power lines underground to improve the infrastructure and enhance resiliency. Neighborhoods affected by construction will be notified well in advance of the project start date. This will include the posting of no parking signs. Construction will begin with the coordination of streets and sidewalks impacted in your neighborhood. Signs will be posted, and flaggers will direct vehicles and pedestrians around construction crews. Before any digging begins, other existing utility lines that may be in the path of construction will be carefully identified and marked in the field. In some cases, small plants, trees, and grass will need to be removed from public spaces to allow for digging and placement of new underground equipment. But we will do our best to retain as much vegetation as possible. Any public property disturbed by this work will be restored to its original condition. Construction workers will use asphalt saws to cut the pavement. A backhoe will dig a trench for the placement of the distribution line. Periodically along the main primary line, manholes and tap holes will be required to house equipment and to provide access for inspections and repairs. The backhoe will also be utilized in these cases to excavate for these structures. In order to meet jurisdictional safety requirements, shoring will be provided in the trench to ensure stability. PEPCO uses either fiberglass or plastic PVC conduit to protect underground power lines. Concrete will be poured into the trench to encase and secure the conduit, and steel plates will be placed over the trench temporarily to make the road usable to vehicle traffic. After the concrete is set, the steel plates will be removed and the trench will be repaved in sections. Transformers, switches, and other ancillary equipment will be set in place. Equipment such as transformers and switches will be installed either in the roadway or the sidewalk, depending on space availability. Underground cable will be installed. Landscaping will be restored as needed and roads paved. Overhead primary electric wires will be removed from poles, but secondary service and communication lines will remain. Finally, the new underground power lines will be energized. While electricity will remain on throughout the project, there will be a short scheduled outage needed to switch from the overhead lines to the new underground system. We appreciate your patience while the district and PEPCO improve the future of electrical service for the District of Columbia residents.
Okay, so I'm unmuted, right? Yeah, okay. So this is feeder 15001, and the highlighted portion above is Kennedy Street. So feeder 15001 is what we call a DC Plug an opportunity project. So that video displays everything that will happen with DC Plug will be within the street. It won't look the same as the Kennedy Street construction. However, since we knew that the Kennedy Street project was going to happen, we coordinated, and that's why we're doing it at the same time. So the construction for feeder 15001 won't start till March 2024, just a little bit after Kennedy Street. But just to give you guys a heads up, this is the map and the locations will be doing the work. Next slide. All right, so I'm with the communications team, and we do a ton of communication on DC Plug. We hope you don't get tired of us. So the DC Plug has created an education plan that the Public Service Commission overseas. So with that being said, we do a 30-day notification for pre-construction. So you guys will get door hangers, a 15-day notification for pre-construction, a 7-day notification, and then you'll start to see those no parking signs that the video showed you within 72 hours of construction. We do resident letters as needed, just in case like we're doing restoration work or any special things pop up to let residents know. We also have something called TE letters, and these are letters that the impacted residents that will have transformer enclosures outside of in the public space near their homes will be notified of, and they'll get those letters just letting them know, hey, that thing near your house is a transformer enclosure, and educating them on that. We distribute the schedule to our stakeholder database. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can head over to our website. We also have we also do traffic advisories per DDOT, and those are also those are also delivered electronically to our stakeholder database. We attend ANC meetings regularly during the construction process, and then we have a dedicated outreach team that will be available to talk to you guys, and we'll have a pre-construction meeting for ourselves to notify you guys of that as well. We also have a 24-hour hotline. That's 1-844-758-445, and our dedicated a dedicated email, which is questions@dcplug.com. When we get to the electrical phase, which is well after the civil construction, it's not as impactful visibly. However, a few residents will receive power outages, and those residents, once we get to that phase, will be notified within 72 hours with our letters. And we also still attend the ANC meetings regularly, so we give them a heads up as well. Next slide, please. Oh, wait, I think I'm done. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to pass it over to Peyton.
That is it. Thank you so much, Raisha. Hello, everybody. My name is Peyton Manning. You may have seen me out in the field a bit. I'm with the communications team. I will be one of your main points of contact going forward as the construction is ongoing on Kennedy Street, as well as DC Plug, but on Kennedy Street. So first things first, that is essentially the end of the presentation. We'll get into the Q&A, but first I just want to draw your attention to our Title VI survey. For those of you that are joining on the Cisco WebEx platform, you'll be automatically redirected to take this after the meeting once it closes. We ask that you really take it. It only takes about 2 minutes to complete. It's very helpful for us going forward with any public meetings that we may have to have, kind of to understand how to best provide these meetings for you in this community. If you are calling in, you can access the survey by going to tinyurl.com/titlevi-survey. Again, that's tinyurl.com/titlevi-survey. I'll give you a minute, but again, please, it's very important that you do take the time just to take the 2 minutes and take this survey. At this point, we're going to open up the Q&A. So I know Commissioner Lucarelli, I know you wanted to speak, so we can go ahead and unmute you in just a moment. For those of you that are on the platform, again, you can either send a question in the Q&A or chat box. It should be at the bottom right of your screen, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. And if you're calling in, you can dial *3 and we'll see that you raised your hand and we'll unmute you. But again, we'll make sure that we let you know you're about to be unmuted, and we'll go through these questions as well, kind of interchangeably. But Commissioner Lucarelli, I know you did have your hand raised early, so let me go ahead and unmute you. And we should be able to hear you now. Danica, I might need your help. I'm sorry, Commissioner. There you go.
This is Carson.
We can hear you.
Great. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this presentation. It's obviously long overdue, and I don't want to start this with this kind of tone, but I just want to emphasize how overdue this is, and as a result, what we as a community have lost. So to start, my name is Carson Lucarelli. I'm the ANC commissioner that represents 4D like Douglas 03. And so obviously we represent, or I represent the folks that will be impacted by the later phase of this project, because 4D03 goes to Kennedy in Georgia. And just as an anecdotal note, in addition to this role as ANC commissioner, I happen to be a transportation planner with the city of Alexandria, but none of what I'm about to say is a reflection or value on that agency or institution. These are my personal beliefs. So having said that and put that aside, I want to thank you for convening this meeting. We're obviously, a lot of folks are very keen to see this take shape, but I do want to emphasize that in the time, the timeline reminded me of the young gentleman, the young bright mind, Mr. Joshua, who lost his life at Kennedy in Georgia, the Truesdale student, a couple summers ago. And so I just need to emphasize how important this project is and how we need to ensure that there really are no more delays here. It at times feels like up here in 4D that we sometimes feel ignored. And I know that, you know, whatever the reasons are, I just want to emphasize that because we can't afford to lose anyone else to Georgia. And I know that this effort is going to help make good on the road that's very much a product of its time. So I just wanted to emphasize that. I have a couple questions though, because you know, you all were talking rather earlier about the undergrounding and the conduit project. Is that only for the extents of Kennedy west of Georgia? I mean, I imagine, right?
Currently, yes, it's west of Georgia between 16th and Georgia.
Okay, and so you know, it's a little disappointing. I mean, you know, I wasn't commissioner when, you know, the first phase, you know, North Capitol to Georgia Avenue went down. I do live on Kennedy Street, and so, you know, I appreciate the improvements. I think we could have done more collectively, because you know, the sidewalks are still pretty uncomfortable. You can't really push a stroller down them and walk by someone, and you know, we have a lot of young families here, so I was a little surprised and disappointed to hear that because, you know, I don't know what the background is, and you can follow up with me privately about that, but I was a little surprised to hear that. So that's really all I have at this point. I'm obviously very glad to see this take off. It's obviously very much needed, and I think that it will be transformative and make, you know, all of our collective neighborhoods much safer, comfortable, more useful for pedestrians, transit riders, and people driving. But if you could just touch on the what's the project called? The undergrounding of the lines. That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah. So one thing, Commissioner, that I just want to highlight: the undergrounding of the lines is not going to eliminate the poles. There will still be some utility lines that remain on those poles, so they're not being taken down yet. This is just undergrounding the primary line so that if a tree were to fall on them, the power doesn't go out for the whole neighborhood. I don't know if you have more questions kind of along the line of the purpose. I know this is before my time, but back in 2012, a survey was done. These lines were identified. They tried to identify the most vulnerable ones in the city, the most outages, the most trees in the area, and try to identify those, and those were the feeders that were chosen for the project. Certainly the DC Plug program tries to identify projects like Kennedy Street to underground these lines, and kind of avoid doing multiple reconstruction projects on the roadway. So it's a great opportunity. We really do appreciate your support, and I know that we'll be talking a lot going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand for now. If you do have any more comments or questions, please raise it again, and we'll get you unmuted one more time. I'm going to jump into the chat for just a second, then I'll go back to the hands raised. I do have a question from David. The public park on the south side of Illinois and Georgia Avenue has become a place for folks mostly to drink and litter. How do we keep that from happening in this new park?
Yeah, thank you for the question, David. That's unfortunate to hear. You know, to be honest, I'm not quite sure where the right people to enforce that. I would suggest that you write to the police department or whatnot and address it through that channel. But it is unfortunate to hear.
Thank you, Andrew. And one more question for you, Andrew. From Matt. Moreland's Tavern at 14th and Kennedy was assured that they would not lose any of its patio. By the looks of slide 15, they're going to be losing a large chunk of it. And I believe he's referring to during the design phase. Can
we go to slide 15? Because
Absolutely.
I did see Matt's question, and I just wanted to kind of understand. I think it's the slide after that, correct?
This one that we're referring to. Okay.
So looking at some of the plans, the primary reason for is the open plaza farmer. I don't believe much of the patio will be removed. It may be reconstructed, but I don't think that Moreland Tavern at 14th and Kennedy will be losing a large portion of its patio.
And Andrew, perhaps, Matt, I see you raise your hand. We can unmute you if you wanted to discuss.
There?
Hey, Matt, we should be able to hear you.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, it was 15 was the right one. And it looked like when we met back before all of this, just north of where the plaza is, my business, I Am Moreland's Tavern, the green space, yep, right there, that is all cutting off. That comes up to basically our front steps. We did have a public meeting and we were assured that our patio would not be touched. And then we would be worked around for the farmer's market, that construction would not be happening during summer hours. So I saw the new timeline and I just wanted to get some more assurance on that because construction dust will kill our summer business, and we rely on that, and so does the farmers market. It's a community place, and we can't lose that right now.
Thank you, Matt, for your question. I'll answer it, and Dawood, if you wanted to add in. Matt, we heard you loud and clear. We're working with the contractor to resequence some of the work at that intersection. We've identified the phases that will affect the farmers market, and we're working with the contractor to resequence that activity to December of this year through March and April of next year. They've been very cooperative, and I think we're going to make it happen.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it, and we're excited for this to be done. But yeah, obviously the headaches that are going to come over the next year are going to be, they're going to come. So it's just trying to figure out how we can avoid them before we get there.
And one of the messaging that we wanted to make sure that we get across today is, we have a set of plans, but it's not set, the phasing itself, it's not necessarily set in stone. We obviously are well aware that real-time conditions may dictate some type of flexibility, and we are certainly amenable to discussing any type of flexible improvements that can be done related to the phasing. I just wanted to make sure that the community understands that. So please reach out to our public relations team. I will say, I don't know if we're going to be able to accommodate every individual request.
Yeah.
But certainly we are not inflexible as what we've done with that corner to kind of resequence that to later this year after the farmers market.
For sure. And I really appreciate that. And Mr. Manning has been around, and we are already text friends, and we are in contact. It is just my main thing is I can't lose that patio right now. I mean, after the pandemic, we are hanging on, and I can't lose another summer and more seats out there. So that is a major concern, and Mr. Manning will continue to hear from me. So.
Sure. Yeah. No, not a problem, Matt. I really appreciate you hopping on and sharing that concern. And we can take a look. Also, Andrew, I just kind of wanted to highlight, this is just a rendering. We can take a look at the official plans and kind of see, make sure there's no changes right there.
Well, yeah. I mean, we can take a look. For some reason, I thought Moreland Taverns was across from that slip ramp that we were eliminating. I may have gotten the location incorrect, but I thought it was across from that slip ramp that we were.
Yeah, it is. It's the top center of the after. Yep. And that new green comes right up to it looks like our front steps, which
sure.
If we did do that, we would lose 5 tables and probably 24 seats.
Sure.
So
yeah. Keep pinging Mr. Manning.
Yeah, I will.
Mr. Payton, not the Broncos and Colts quarterback, but
Yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Matt, I'm going to lower your hand and put you back on mute. If you have anything, as I'd say to everybody, just please feel free to raise it again. I'm going to go right back to the hands raised to leave. I know you had your hand raised pretty early, so I'm going to try to get you off mute. Let me see. There you go. You should be unmuted now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, my name is Taladin Ukda. I am the president of the 14th Street Uptown Business Association. And actually, when I looked at your slide, it was interesting to me, you know, how you all have started on the 2012 date, but my history with this goes back to 2009, 2010, when we were able to convince then Councilwoman Muriel Bowser to include the 14th Street corridor in the expansion of Kennedy Street. So I have quite a vested interest in this. I am an immediate neighbor that owns the home and the business right next to the 14th Street bus turnaround. And I'm also a former ANC commissioner that participated in the plug process, as well as trying to move this project forward. So the more pressing questions for me, I want to start with the, I don't know where the slide is. Since you've got this slide up right now, let me just use that one as a concern. One of the things that you raised was that there was going to be, it sounded like you said, a dedicated light for buses. My presumption is that's going to be a light where traffic is going to stop on either side that would allow for buses to leave the facility. Will that light, what light signal is going to control southbound 14th Street traffic coming from, presently coming from either Colorado Avenue or Kennedy Street? Is there going to be a light that controls that southbound traffic? Right now, there is none.
Dawid, did you want to answer that? You're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Oh, thank you. So thank you for the question. So the one you see on this rendering shows only we are signal at this intersection, but there is signal controls the southbound, northbound, and Colorado and Kennedy Street, all of them. But this one shows only.
I'm not. I don't know if you understand my question or not.
Sorry.
Right now, southbound 14th Street traffic, there is nothing stopping that traffic once it gets to Colorado Avenue. It keeps coming. And if there is not a signal control that stops that traffic coming southbound, it's going to be an accident waiting to happen. I understand what you're trying to do to give buses the opportunity to leave. That's fine. And I can see, and I guess it would have me move into my next question. Those people who are crossing 14th Street coming from Colorado Avenue, their where is their signal going to be? Is that going to be the one at the coming out of the turnaround?
So I will say this, and again, it's a rendering, but what's most helpful for the pedestrians is how the pavement marking is shown at the on the drawing, on the rendering. Each of those pavement marking are going to be controlled via signal and timed to allow folks to move across 14th Street, across Colorado. But I focus on the pavement marking for pedestrian movement.
Okay. So, okay, then I can tell you that this is not going to solve the pedestrian problem if you are a bus rider and you get off the e-bus, you get off the e-bus and you see a southbound 14th Street bus sitting at the bus stop. Force of habit, I don't care what you're showing on this screen, people are going to immediately continue to run the full length diagonally across 14th, crossing all lanes of traffic in order to catch that bus. Unless that bus stop is going to be moved, and I'm not suggesting that it be moved, but I don't see that happening, and it's going to be real hard to kill those old habits. Let me, in the interest of time, let me move on to something else. At the time you all put this together, well, let me put it to you this way. We now have, and I would tell you maybe for the last 2 to 3 years, we now have at the intersection of 14th and Jefferson, a very robust and active daycare center for, I guess they call them toddlers. I mean, they're infants, they're small children. I'm concerned as to how this is going to help those children as well as the pedestrians, being the parents or guardians that are trying to cross 14th and Jefferson in order to enter the daycare center in the morning and then during pickup in the evening. That may not have been a consideration when this was put together because the daycare center was not there. But they are there now, and I can tell you they are super active. The last thing I want to comment on is the plaza configuration that will be at the intersection of 14th, Kennedy, and Colorado. We had discussed, and this was some years ago in the early part of the project, of the feasibility of having a summertime sprinkler system that is similar to what is down at what is that, Columbia Plaza, down in Columbia Heights, the plaza that has the sprinkler system coming up, because there is water already there in that small park at the intersection of 14th, Kennedy, and Colorado Avenue. Is that still possible?
I appreciate the question. It's something that I think you need to move these through your representatives. From us and from my standpoint, we can certainly be flexible when someone's sequencing some of the construction activities, but we moved into the construction phase. In the set of plans that I have is what we've requested the contractor to build.
Okay.
But I certainly understand your passion and your vested interest in this, and I would suggest you work through the representative or the councilman for this and get to the proper channels.
Okay. So during this construction phase, I know the plug representative indicated that someone from that group will be in attendance at the local ANC meetings. In my case, that would be ANC 4E. So will DDOT also commit to being at those ANC meetings so that if the community has questions, we can get some answers sooner rather than later?
That's Andrew. I can take that. I am actually the representative for the DC Plug project as well as this Kennedy Street project. We will have somebody on those meetings monthly.
Okay.
And certainly I'm going to share, and I'm going to jump there in a second. I'm going to make sure everybody here and everybody in the neighborhood has my personal email, and they can reach out to me at any time if they have a question or concern about either project.
That'll be fine, because there's one other issue I want to bring to you all's attention, and that is this neighborhood has had some ongoing and concerning issues with the contractor that you have selected. We've had a lot of problems with Fort Myer in them either doing certain things or not doing certain things that has caused us to have to reach out to our ANC rep or our Ward 4 rep, to get them to correct, some of their behaviors. But we can talk about that later. Thank you very much. I'm gonna put myself on mute.
Thank you so much. And like I've told everybody, I'm going to go ahead and put your hand down. If you have a question, please feel free to raise it again. And I'm going to get back to the questions. I just want to make sure that in case anybody's hopping off as we go through the Q&A, they do have this information. If you got a flyer and you've attended this meeting, I hope you have. You should have access to the project website. It is on the flyer, but for those of you who may have gotten access to this meeting somehow other way, the project website is Kennedy Street Northwest reconstruction.ddot.dc.gov. Again, that's Kennedy Street Northwest reconstruction.ddot.dc.gov. And it's Kennedy STNW for those calling in. And then again, I said I'd give you my email. My email is Peyton, Peyton @tbaconnects.com. Again, Peyton @tbaconnects.com. Please feel free if you have any questions or concerns as construction is ongoing. Give me an email, shoot me an email, and I'll make sure to get answers and make sure the team is aware of any concerns that you have. And again, I can highlight my team member, Honora, who started off the meeting. Her email is Honora, ENORA, @tbaconnects.com as well. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure everybody had that, and we can get right back to these questions. Abel, I see your question. Will a slide deck be shared? Yes, the slide deck will be on the project website, Kennedy STNW-reconstruction.ddot.dc.gov. We'll have that on there in the next day or so. Just give us a moment to get it finalized and get it on there. I'm going to jump back to a hand raised. Abel, I see your hands raised. Since I just mentioned you, I'll go ahead and get you off mute so you can speak. Just give me one moment. There you are. We should be able to hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Abel Mene. I am the commissioner for 4D02. Thank you so much for this presentation and for taking on this project. Just jumping off a quick question, could we jump back to the construction team page you had? And I'm just curious about what the previous speaker just said. And can you just name I see some logos here. Okay. Just wanted to know what the construction code. Okay, but my question is actually has to do with water utilities, and I wonder if I didn't hear anyone from DC Water being represented, but I understand this also touches on that a little bit. So my question is going to be about lead service lines, specifically along this route. There are, by my count, like 30 homes that have lead service lines. So I'm just going to drop this map in there. People can zoom in. So you're really going over a piece of road that theoretically, but by 2030 should be redug up again to replace all those service lines. So I just want to make sure, along with doing this project, especially that little strip that has like 30 homes I'm counting here between 14th and Georgia. On either side, I'm seeing all these homes with lead pipes. So when we're digging this up, I'm seeing that's also where the feed line is going down, I understand. So like, are we also going to do lead service line replacement? And if we are, and this is the more important question, and once you do that, you have to do it all the way to the, not just the public side, but also the private side. Otherwise, you're going to basically shake up the pipes and release even more lead into people's drinking water. So I just want to make sure we're not going to do partial replacement. If we are going to do lead service line replacement along with this project, that we're not doing partial, and that we're going to do full, and how are we working with DC Water to do that? If you just speak to that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Dawi, did you want to speak to this first, and now I can chime in?
The thing is, we are the construction team. We were asked to join us, our design team, to this meeting. I think for some reason he didn't come to this meeting, but all this kind of detailed questions, I think it would be better just to, we will take whatever your question you have right now, and then we will respond back formally in writing, please.
Yes, that's my suggestion. The DC Water is engaging in a lead-free program through that agency. So we'll answer your question, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say.
Great, thank you. Commissioner, if you want to send me an email, I can make sure that we get an answer for you. Again, my email, I think you have it. I believe I sent you the invite, but my email is Peyton, Peyton, @tbaconnects.com. And I can put it in the chat as well. To the next question that we have in the chat. Will parking on the 1200 block of Longfellow change at all if there's going to be cars waiting at the light? Longfellow is an extremely tight street, and I believe, Lisa, you're referring to the detour plan. Andrew, if you could.
What is the question? Can you be
specific?
Yeah,
I'll slow it down a little bit. I know I was speaking fast. So will parking on the 1200 block of Longfellow Street change at all if there is going to be cars waiting at the light there? Longfellow is already an extremely tight street.
Yeah. We'll send us that question. We'll take a look at it. It may be part of the detour plan to accommodate additional traffic through the detour. So it's certainly a possibility as part of that sequence. So please send us that question and we'll provide a response.
Great, thank you. And then also, if there is going to be a parking restriction, something Andrew touched on earlier, there will be 72-hour notice. You'll see the signs going up on nearby poles or trees or anything in the area. Next question. We live on Kennedy and are concerned about air, noise, and debris pollution. How will the contractor mitigate construction impacts on our neighborhood?
Yeah, so I'll answer that, and I'll also answer the question that Talib had specifically about this contractor and his experience. I can't really speak to what projects you may have experienced Fort Myers construction with, but certainly every project is a little bit different. As far as noise, air, debris, pollution, that is something that the contractor has specifications and requirements that they must meet. There are certain work hours, as well as there's requirements to clean up the project site following their construction activities for the day. There's going to be enforcement through my team, the construction management team. And again, if there's any concerns or issues with the contractor, I really do encourage you to raise it up to the public relations team so that we can help address it with the contractor. The community is of great importance to us. We want to make sure that we're good neighbors for the next 2 years. So regardless of your past experience, we're here. It is Fort Myers, and we want to work with the community to address any concerns that they have.
Great.
Yes, in addition, just want to make sure about the contractor. They are gonna securing the construction site, and the contractor and the worker, they must provide like a clear, very visible warning sign, and also the personnel being trained for the public safety. They use like appropriate safety equipment, and most important part, we do our best to maintain like a proper communication with the public and provide the weekly or bi-weekly traffic advisory if any changes, if any like a traffic detour we would have in that area. And we work with the community to we are flexible to justify our phasing of the project. However, as the rest of the team mentioned, we are the construction team, and the design already been completed. But if the public has any question or any concern, please provide your question and concern, and would be answered by and addressed by the design team. However, thank you again for your understanding, because most likely we have a short pain for the long gain. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. I'm going to go with one more question in the chat, and then we can go back to some of these hands that are raised. So are there any, I'm sorry.
I said, sure. Yeah, that's great.
Are there any plans to install speed bumps or other traffic calming measures on the 1300 block of Kennedy Street? It's a long block with lights at both ends, and cars, trucks, and buses frequently drive well over the speed limit to make the light. It's extremely dangerous, and many small children live in this block, including in my house.
Yeah, and again, I would encourage that question to be submitted through Peyton Manning. As far as the plans that were provided, it does not look like there's been speed bumps specifically installed for that block. But we do feel strongly that with some of the configuration changes of the intersections, it will lead to traffic calming along Kennedy Street.
Yes, but we have a potential if there is like a safety concern about like a speed bump, we can reach out to our traffic division team, and they can reconsider to add or modify something, because currently we don't have any thing on our plan. Thank you.
Yeah, but I would encourage that they ask the question so that it can get started for review.
Sure.
Yeah, send the question to me. And Jordan, I do see that you raised your hand, so I was going to jump back to the hands raised. So I'll go ahead and unmute you in case you have any follow-up to that question. Just give me 1 second. Jordan, we should be able to hear you now. Okay, I think Jordan took himself back off mute. If you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand again, and we can bring you back. I'm going to go ahead and again stay back on these hands raised. Alex, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now. We should be able to hear you.
Councilmember Lewis George's office. Thanks for the presentation and the engagement with the community. I have a few things. I'm just going to share them really quickly and then give you the chance to respond. There's been so much community interest around this, so I want to make sure that I get to everything. One is about the construction timeline of being 2 years. I know this is a really intense project. It feels like neighbors waited a long time to get to this point. So I'm wondering, is there a reason that it's going to take 2 full years related to the fact that it's being done concurrently with DC Plug? Or is that just how long it takes to do this kind of reconstructive work? My other question was about outreach to businesses, especially around the 14th and Kennedy and Colorado intersection. I'm glad Matt is here. I'm glad you are aware of Moreland's needs, but there's also some other businesses. Hedgerola, for example, just opened this year, or within the last year. So if it's possible to do another round of outreach and make sure they know what's going on and they can work with you to mitigate any issues, that would be really good. I also want to touch on DC Plug. I know that this work is really important, but it's also very intrusive, and we've seen the impact in other parts of the war and other parts of the city. I would encourage the folks at DC Plug, and I know they're taking community engagement very seriously and improving their communications. But if you guys can make sure you're, emailing the listservs, there's 4 listservs for this neighborhood. It's really active, and showing up to community association meetings too, and that folks know who you are, how to reach you, how to work through issues. That would be really helpful. And my last comment is just to share our support for traffic safety calming if there's anything that comes up as a potential addition to this project. For example, I know that the other part of Kennedy Street revitalization, phase 1, included raised crosswalks, and it feels like that's something that we could have here and could be a net benefit to the project. This is an area that has a lot of crashes and near misses and a lot of families and schools. So anything you can do to improve traffic safety even more would be appreciated.
Great, thank you, Alex. And Alex, if you could share some of those, some of the listservs with me and businesses that you were concerned about, that'd be great, and I'll make sure that we're communicating with them. But I'm sorry, I'm cut you off, Andrew.
No, I said, and again, I'm not sure I'm able to capture all the questions that you had asked. So I do definitely, it's a kind of a repeating pattern here. Encourage you to submit those questions to our PR team. I did get the question about the timeline, and my response to that is it is typical reconstruction project to take 2 years, especially one that is as complex and has as many stakeholders as this one. We really tried to sequence some of the activities to minimize the impact and go one by one sequentially. And that's one of the reasons why it's going to take 2 years. Traffic safety is what this project is all about. We understand there's been some issues. That's the primary reason why we're here. We understand the community has been itching for this project to start, and to be frank, we're very, very excited to get started next week.
Yes, about your question for the time frame of the project, because of the complexity of the project and also volume of the utility work, the DC plug work we have in this project, like a $20 million project just for construction, is very pretty typical across the city. But construction team do our best to expedite the process, considering the phasing of the project. If there is a potential is happening before in other project like Rock Creek, we complete the job a few months in advance to the schedule of the 5 months in advance of the project. But the current schedule is 2 years. We are hoping to at least.
We are not making any
but
commitments.
No promise, no commitments. No, just I provide you example. Yes, we do our best. Yes.
Thank you, Omid.
No commitment. Yes.
I'll go to another question in the chat. Apologies to everybody that is scrambled, so I don't know who raised their hand first, but let's go with Elizabeth. I'll go ahead and get you off mute so that you can speak, and we should be able to hear you now.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, gotcha.
Great. So question and just comment, question on the related to 14th and Kennedy and the farmers market back when we were, so the farmers market, they get a permit from DDOT to use a street, not a sidewalk, but to use a street for their stalls. But of course, this would reduce the amount of street space at that corner with the creation of the plaza. One of the points we were raising a bunch many years ago when we were meeting on this was making sure the market, when it goes every year to get its permits, is able to use some of that plaza space to set up stalls so they don't have to become a smaller market and have fewer stalls. So I wanted to ask about that, and just two other things. I'm really glad to hear that one of the other big points we were talking about was the timeline for that corner and how absolutely critical it is that the construction is in the December to like March, maybe April timeframe, so that it's not impacting the farmers market, hopefully minimizing the impact to Matt and Morelands. So I'm glad to hear you get that, and that's in the timeline. It's really important that it stays, during winter months. I am concerned to hear that it sounds like it's hard to see from the slides. I am concerned to hear that Morelands is using space. That was another thing we talked about a bunch. It's really important that they keep their tables, they keep their space, and not, have less business. So it would just be helpful to see a better view of what it looks like. Are they losing space? How much space are they losing? What's the impact on tables lost? Because that was a big thing we talked about, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, whenever it was. And it matters a lot to everyone. So thank you.
No, thank you.
So, yeah, I appreciate that question. So I'll address the farmers market, and yes, we're removing that slip ramp to create a larger space for the farmers market as opposed to what is out there in the existing condition. So removing that slip ramp serves multiple purpose, traffic safety, as well as a larger space for farmers market. I will say that continue to apply your permit and utilize that space in addition to the roads. That is not, our call. That is through your permitting department and your permitting contact. So I certainly encourage you to continue applying for a permit to utilize that street on Saturdays for your farmers market, even with the larger and the removal of the slip ramp.
Okay, just make it, because we're talking to DDOT and other organizations, just making sure the permits will still allow use of the plaza as well.
Yeah, I can't speak to the permit office, but I would encourage that you open up that conversation.
Okay, yeah, and we did open it up years ago, but then this was put on hold. So I thought that was where we landed, but since it's been many years and maybe new people working on it, you don't know what messages are carried forward.
And as far as your second question, I believe you were trying to take care of Matt. Certainly, we very much enjoy Matt's presence on this project, and we'll work with him in terms of making sure that we can resequence some of these activities to accommodate the farmers market, as well as taking a look at some of the construction in front of his establishment.
Perfect. Well said, Andrew. Thank you. I'm gonna jump back to a couple questions in the chat, and then David, I see you have your hand raised, so I'm gonna unmute you in just a minute because I'm gonna cover one of your questions. So Mark, I'm gonna need your help with some of this. Why isn't the 1300 block of Longfellow on the DC plug plan, and then also with the DC plug along DC plug route? Will poles be removed in this instance? The video made it seem like they won't. So I think I touched on that, David. The poles will stay up. There are still communication lines that are running on those poles, as well as I believe the secondary lines for Pepco. So the poles will be up. There will still be some lines there. But again, the purpose of undergrounding the primary line is to kind of prevent any trees falling on those and knocking out the power. But Mark, if you're still on and could help me with the 1300 block of Longfellow, I can jump back to that map and we can take a look.
Hey, I did check it out. It will be on the 1300 block on Longfellow.
It will be? Perfect. Well done, Raisha. Okay. So and David, I see your hands raised, so I'm going to go ahead and get you off mute in case we didn't cover anything else that you had. Just give me one moment and we should be able to hear you now.
Thank you to the DDOT team and all of the involved folks. This is a good project and a necessary project, and one that we have waited for quite a number of years. So we appreciate it and appreciate your efforts and are excited to see it get going. I live on the 1300 block of Longfellow. My gut is that during construction, we're going to see a pretty significant increase in through traffic on the 1300 block of Longfellow, probably the entirety of Longfellow from 14th or even 16th to Georgia Avenue. It's already a bit of a bypass of Kennedy when traffic starts to back up. So I have a very specific request, and it has to do with trucks. When trucks come down Longfellow is not designed to accommodate through trucks. When trucks do come down our street, there is not sufficient width of the street for cars to pass, for two vehicles or a vehicle to pass a truck. And traffic backs up in both directions. Folks have to back up. It gets very complicated. So my very specific request would be for a no through trucks signage along Longfellow Street. I think it's already the law that they can't come down unstriped streets. So just having that direct signage, I think, would be really helpful, and that would be something small but very meaningful. My other request for having to do with through traffic on Longfellow Street would be to sequence this project, if at all possible, to put that light at Longfellow and Georgia Avenue in the earlier stages of this project. And the reason is that I suspect having that light there will discourage some of the apps, and I'm talking about Waze, Google Maps, Apple Maps, from directing additional traffic down Longfellow during the construction phase, because when that light is red, it will signal to those apps that that Longfellow is not the optimal path. So those are my two requests: the signage and the sequencing of that light at Longfellow and Georgia. I also I think it is necessary, and I know a number of folks have already stated this, but when we did meet as a community back in 2017, 2018, whenever that was, so quite a few years ago, there was a pretty firm commitment from DDOT at that time. Let me rephrase. There was a firm commitment from DDOT at that time to sequence this so as not to interrupt the farmers market. So it feels a little bit like we're relitigating that, and I know that DDOT has committed to see what they can do and feels optimistic that that sequencing will be achieved. But I do want to remind folks of that commitment, and it seems to me that we shouldn't be asking to resequence, that should just have been part of the plan. I'll stop there. Thank you again. Over.
All right, thank you, David, for bringing that up. I would say, as far as the two requests, please email them to us so we can evaluate and take a look. We need to evaluate the possibilities as well as the potential to resequence some of that activities, like you have mentioned, specifically with the traffic signal. So, we can't speak intelligently to that right now, but certainly submit that request so we can take a look at it. And as far as the resequencing the activity to accommodate the farmers market, I agree. I don't think we're necessarily relitigating it here. We're just wanting to assure the community that we hear you guys loud and clear, and we're working with the contractor.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And David, I promised that I'd take you off mute. So can we get David off mute? I don't remember if that happened or not. I see your hand is still raised.
Wasn't that David? That was not David.
Was that David? I'm sorry.
Yes, that was
I think that was David.
That was good. Thank you.
Apologies. I'm going to lower your hand so I don't do that again. Commissioner Rubio, I see your hand is raised, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now. Thank you, Commissioner Rubio. We should be able to hear you.
Thank you, Peyton. I'm ANC Commissioner Rubio for 4E01, so I cover the north side of Kennedy Street over to the Colorado, basically where all our businesses are at on the Colorado Strip. I just put in this chat about my traffic issues that we're having over at the 14th and Jefferson Street. We do have open traffic safety assessments that go through for the 14th and Jefferson, 14th and Colorado and Kennedy, 14th and Longfellow, which is the latest one. Has the project taken in consideration those open traffic safety assessments that have been submitted by constituents?
The limits that you've defined are sort of the northern limits of this project. If they're relatively new traffic safety assessment requests, I encourage you to work through whoever you're currently working with, and certainly you can work through Peyton on this project to try and get a status update on those traffic safety assessment. But unfortunately, if they're relatively new traffic safety assessment requests, they probably were not considered during the design of this project.
Okay, I'll pin you on the 14th and Longfellow one. Reviewing it last night online, it's basically stating that it will be incorporated within this project. So it gave me the impression that you guys have reviewed it and are looking, towards mediating and incorporating with the Kennedy Street.
Yeah,
project.
and this seems like it's multiple requests, correct?
Yes, it is.
So certainly I was thinking more of the 14th and Jefferson request, but yeah, I would submit those questions and we'll take a look and we'll get back with you.
Okay. On construction, I understand you're doing it by phases. I suppose that each intersection is considered a phase. Am I correct?
It's actually a little bit more complicated than that, and I really would encourage you to reach out to Peyton and perhaps we can set some time aside to go through some of the phasing with you. This is an oversimplification of the phasing, and within each of those phasing, there's several sub phases to minimize impact. So I will tell you this: at an intersection, we could be talking about 4 sub phases to minimize impact, to work at certain corners rather than closing off the entire intersection by itself.
Okay, so the way you'll be working in phases is basically opening up on 14th in Colorado and opening as well over on Kennedy and George Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage you to reach out if you're interested and your constituents are interested. We can certainly provide the phasing plan, the 25 pages that is related to each of the phases to you all for your review. I'm certainly available to go through it with you guys as well. But it's an oversimplification. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. There are several sub phases along those corridors to minimize the impacts, and especially at the intersections.
Okay, thank you for that. Has a vibration test been performed for the blocks that you'll be working on, as well as the surrounding blocks? I bring this up because we did Washington gas pipe project along the 12 and the 1300 block of Kennedy Street. Now, given that as you go down Kennedy Street, it's on most of the properties sit on a slope. These properties suffered from structural cracks as well as shifting, foundation shifting. And this was all because of the construction equipment that was used for the demolition and the creation of the trenches, as well as how the trenches were opened and covered up with either temporary asphalt or temporary plates. Given that the Kennedy Street corridor has the buses and also has the heavy duty vehicles, this creates a vibration that residents are able to sense once this road is open.
Yeah, I'll start by saying that, actually, we are well aware of some of the issues that occurred with the Washington Gas contractor. One of the things that I'm here to assure you that we are not the Washington Gas team. We're aware of some of the issues, and we're.
But Fort Myers was part of that project, and that's where our concern is with Fort Myers overall. Fort Myers has been involved with the Washington Gas project.
Sure.
Now it's with the DC Water, and now you're telling us that he is the contractor for this project. So that is where our concern comes from. We say that in a perfect construction project, we say, yes, this contractor will be responsible for their staging area, putting up the signs, making sure it's properly closed at the end of the day, it's clean. That in reality, that's not what happens. And I, as ANC commissioner for the past 3 years, I've been gutted with the Washington Gas and the DC Water Rivers project. And now with the lead pipe replacement in my area, it's awful dealing with Fort Myers. Obtaining a response from them in an immediate response on making sure that their materials are all set in place, it's been tough.
Sure. Homan, you wanted to chime in? I see you got.
Yes, just we are aware, Commissioner, we are aware of the situation, what's happening during the Washington Gas in Colorado, and unfortunately there was some inconvenience happening that time, and sometime last fall. As Andrew mentioned, DDOT is separate from the Washington Gas. Even the Fort Myers assigned different project team. This is one of the high-profile project in DDOT, and they assigned one of the best team in area for this project. And also the question about the noise and vibration monitoring. We have been starting to assign the budget, allocate the fund for the noise and vibrating monitoring. Fortunately, the Kennedy Street got that funding for the monitoring the noise and vibration before any construction activity, and the CM has a dedicated team and a very professional team for noise and vibration monitoring for the Kennedy Street project, especially with working with utility and underground utility area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That will be one person I will have to be friends with.
Sure. Thank you.
Aside from that, I believe I'm done. I just like to make note that during the process of construction, you take in consideration our business corridor. We've struggled over the years to keep it, to maintain it. We're in a good position right now with Morelands, the East Coastal Cafe, Hesole, Rosie Salon, and our daycares, that we would like to keep them and maintain them. And I know this project will affect our sidewalk corridor, but if we could work around a phase that they won't be impacted, would be highly appreciated. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, again, I would encourage you to submit that specific request to our team so we can evaluate it.
Will do. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Peyton, if I may, for a second, this is Moyessar Mohammed. I'm the designer for the projects. I just want to answer three questions that's been asked earlier related to the design. I just want to answer them. The one I think from Mr. Talib regarding the signal at 14th Street and Colorado and Kennedy. Yes, we heard you. There is a signal design. We're putting a pedestrian signal with striping. So we understand you mentioned this is somebody passed away back then. I'm sorry for that. So we have in our design, there's a signal and a striping on that intersection, Colorado, and the design carry that. Not for like you said, bus, but it's for the pedestrian. There's a signal, there's striping. So, and also as a calming, we have a tightened that area. So people coming down southbound at 14th to Kennedy, they have only one through and left. So, and adding the shared bike will minimize the speed at that, at that intersection. So that's number one. The second question from the gentleman, I think, asking about the DC water regarding the lead for the service line. The DC water project, I'm not speaking for DC water, but because I have familiarity and I know what's the design, the betterment design. It's majority also on Colorado, Kennedy, and 14th. And yes, they have couple service lines been affected, and they're going to change the service line because you mentioned you have a concern about the lead of the pipe. If they just change the main, it may go through a service line or the feeders. I see the design, they done that wherever applicable, but it's not the entire Kennedy Street. It's just the segment that 14th and Colorado and Kennedy. That's where they're doing work, and also with Longfellow, with the Illinois and Georgia. The last question I heard about, I think from the regarding left turn and Longfellow, going northbound. Georgia going northbound and left turn at Longfellow. Yes, there is no left turn there. We close. Will be just through traffic. So if you're driving in Georgia northbound, you cannot make left turn in Longfellow because yes, it's tight, and we signalize in this intersection. I think these are three questions that I remember wrote down regarding.
Thank you.
And if you feel further need, please put it in writing. If I didn't answer it properly.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's great.
And I know too, I know a few people did reference it, Commissioner Amine. There is the lead-free program is in the corridor right now. I know that they're been doing some work. And I have some friends that are on that outreach team, and they've been out trying to go door to door to get people to sign up for it. So please pass lead-free DC on to your constituents and ask them to sign up. But I do believe that's separate of this project, but certainly
it is.
Please take a look. Okay, great. Yeah, so thank you. The private lines, that's going to be something you have to work with DC Water on. If you reach out, I can provide some contact information for that. And Mark, I don't know if you're still on, but we do have some questions about the 1300 block of Longfellow in terms of DC plug and why it's not been highlighted. We will be having another public meeting specific to the DC plug project where we can discuss this more in detail. But this is something that we can review and we can get back to you. Again, please send me an email. But Mark, if you have an answer and are on, feel free to jump on. I will go back to the hands raised. Eric, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. We should be able to hear you in just a second. Perfect. Eric, can you hear me?
Appreciate it. My name is Eric Linshaw. I'm the former 4D01 commissioner. I have two kids at Estrelitas Montessori School. I'm sorry if you hear one of them in the background. She hasn't quite gone to bed yet. I'm very happy about, even though this project is horribly delayed, I'm very happy to see it take off. Very excited about the Colorado slip lane that I passed 2 times with the kids in the stroller every day. That's going to get closed. That's great. I had a small comment about that. I saw that was phase 1. Very happy about that. We've been requesting getting some paint on that crosswalk for quite some time. Not sure when in phase 1 that is, but if that's still 6 months away, I would love some paint there for that crosswalk that's not painted currently. So that'd be great. Second, everyone's concerned about the farmers market and moorlands, even though I actually looked at the plan with Matt here offline, and it looks like the detailed plan that the moorland seating is safe, but let's make sure that is the case and the construction thing. My main concern is actually, as I said, former 4D01, so I was part of the part 1 of this project from North Capitol to Kennedy or Georgia quite a lot. Main concern is the intersection of Georgia and Kennedy, where Carson briefly mentioned that Zaire Joshua was killed by a driver in April of 2021. Then the DDOT director lot, came out to visit us several times, the community afterwards, promised some changes to that intersection. Muriel Bowser, the mayor, also promised those changes later in October. None of those, some of those temporary changes happened, but the permanent changes never happened. And that was promised to be part of this project at several ANC meetings and community walkthrough. And I don't see those changes here. Mr. Mohammed just mentioned the no left turn from Georgia. I mean, that's not enforced. That's not traffic hardening. That was all promised. The curb cutouts to make the pedestrian walkway so Sayer would not have lost his life, that was all promised. And the bollards that were temporary, those were supposed to be made permanent. That was all promised by both Mayor Bowser in that October meeting and by then Director Lott at several walkthroughs. And I'm a little concerned to not see any of that. Again, if those things would have happened, if we would have sped this project up, a 4-year-old would have not lost his life. I mean, so that's a concern to me. So I hope we're not missing, like I'm a little concerned, like David and Elizabeth said, like we were promised things about the farmers market. We were also promised things at Georgia and Kennedy, and that just seems forgotten because DDOT goes through new people and so on. But thank you for this meeting. It was very informative.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thank you. And Eric, I know you just kind of touched on this, but the next question in the chat is referring to the timing with the farmers market area improvements. And I know based on the phasing, we are working with the contractors, and I don't know if you want to speak more to that again, but we are working with the contractors to make sure that we have minimal disruption during the summer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We are. I think we've mentioned it a few times. My folks have already been out there walking, understanding the areas that are going to be cordoned off during the farmers market on Saturdays. So we have an understanding of how to resequence that activity around the cordoned off area. So we're definitely investigating and making sure that we can resequence those activities with the contractor.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Brenda. I see you've had your hand raised for quite some time.
I'm not going to belabor the question about the phasing. You touched on it a little bit. I think the answer, though, that there's 25 pages of phases and subphases, and we can look at that and share it with our neighbors and those who have constituents, is we need something a little more user-friendly. I think the now that we have a sense of we have the overview of the project and the general phases, we really do need to know when this is going to impact our lives, right? So when, something that is, if you guys on the communications team can just lay it out in a way that is really understandable so that we know when to start preparing for, parking issues and street closures and those sorts of things, I think is really important. And I know there's always a reluctance to do that because you think we'll lock you into the timelines and things, we know things change, but just really kind of lay it out for us in ways that we can share with our neighbors, and then update as things change. I think would be really, really helpful. So I'm asking for that. And then the one specific question I have now is in terms of the plaza that's going to be at the reconfigured Colorado Kennedy 14th Street. What happens to the little pocket park now? Is this plaza going to be built around that park and that stays intact, or is that whole thing going to be redesigned?
I'm sorry, can you repeat what intersection that was, Brenda? I missed.
Yeah, the intersection at Kennedy and 14th in Colorado, the plaza, I'm calling it yeah. What happens? There's currently a DPR little pocket park. So is the new plaza just going to build around and extend from that, or is the whole thing going to be scrapped and and developed.
The open plaza is going to be what the focal point of that improvement at that intersection.
Right, and there's a little pocket park there now, a little DPR park that's right there on 14th, and where I guess what I'm now figuring out what a slip ramp is. But the little, what we just call the turn onto 14th Street. But so that park stays and then you build around it. That's what I'm trying to understand.
So go ahead, Mohammed.
Yes, sure. Thank you for the question. So if I may, it's going to be developed in a phasing. So because we understand there is a farmer market happening here. So we kind of in the phasing of MOT, we'll work on rerouting the traffic first and leave that in the middle. That's where you see before where the stop sign, this will be left.
Yeah.
You will close the road that's coming. So you divert all the traffic to 14th and then left until you build here. And the final condition is going to be there is a landscape plan. I don't want to share it now. It's because it's out of this meeting, but it's going to be a bioretention pond with nice seating, and it's the entire we're going to be like a nice paver happening first at the road, then extending once we finish with the road area, going to extend to that. So you're going to change the entire area. That's exactly
yeah. I think I get that, and I guess I'm not being clear. So there is currently I'm calling it a pocket park. You guys may call it something else. It's a DPR, little triangle park that's right there, that has some mature trees and landscaping.
Couple benches, right? I think there's a bench.
There's like one little bench there.
Yeah.
Are you building out from that, or are you tearing it down and redoing the whole thing?
Right. No, I understand.
We're gonna tear it down. We're gonna tear it down, but not immediately. So we will keep. We're thinking like you. We want to take advantage of the park to the last moment. Let's put it this way. So we'll fix the road first, make it nice. Then meanwhile, that little pocket is still people could use it until we're done with the road. Then we segment it to finish the rest of it. So it's gonna be turned down eventually. Or ultimately going to be turned down and put something more.
Okay, and that's all going to happen between December and March and April of next year?
This is Andrew. Andrew, can you look to the timing for
yeah. I mean that's where we've rephased the project, and again, in the roundabout way, yes, the final product will not have the little bench area that's currently there.
Okay, thank you. And I also want to endorse my neighbor's support for Morelands and maintaining both sides of its patios and its seating. That's really, really important, as well as making sure that the other businesses, and Vanessa, you forgot the barbershop, but let's make sure that they have access, their customers have access that they need as throughout all these phases. And that, again, back to overly communicating with everybody when there's going to be some impact, and not just the 72 hours and you got to move your cars, but really having a sense of what's coming and when would be really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda.
To your last point, please watch the project website. We'll be constantly posting traffic advisories on there. If there is a major shift to the project, we'll be going out door to door in the same way we did for this public meeting, and making sure everybody knows what's happening and how it's going to impact you. So I really appreciate that note, and we're with you. We'll make sure that that's happening. But again, please watch the project website, because the more minor shifts you'll see on there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you. Corey, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and just everybody, I know our meeting's set to end at 8:30. We have about 4 minutes left. If we can try to condense some of the questions if possible. Corey, I should be able to hear you now.
Yeah, I can hear you all. Hey, my name's Corey Larea. I live at the 1300 block of Longfellow. You might have answered this with Brenda's question. Is there like a rendering or anything of this open plaza? I think you call it a farmer's market plaza. But I'm just wondering, like, if the intent of this space is going to be like multifunctional. I think someone said there was going to be like a retention pond or something. I don't know. Maybe that's like a small thing at one of the corners, but like when I look at least that this like 3D, you know, kind of map that you have shown, it looks like just brick pavers, and I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe some designs or something on it. But is there an intent for like trees or like, you know, I don't know, some kind of space for live music, like maybe like, I don't know, like the farmers market does music, but like something like that. I don't know. Is it being built specifically for the farmers market? Yeah, I guess I was just curious about that.
Sure. Yeah, no,
Sure.
thank you.
Mohammed, can you answer that question?
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So you're right. It's a paver, but under this paver is porous. To allow like water to seep through because we're trying to serve the stormwater management system. It's not with a lot of trees. So you're right. You see it paver, but there's underneath it there's under drain piping. So this yes paver with porosity. It's allow water to seep through. That's kind of considered as a dry pond, if you wish, but it's not as you maybe have seen in rural areas like major vegetations, and no, it's going to be paved as you see it here, but would allow porosity, allow rainwater to go through and catch with under drain pipes that you're not going to see in the surface. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Evan, I'm going to go ahead and take you off mute.
I'm Evan. I'm the market operations manager for Fresh Farm, the organization that runs and operates the farmers market that everyone's kind of been talking about. And I appreciate so many, you know, people from the community kind of advocating on behalf of the market. I just want to second what everyone, probably third, fourth, what everyone said, that the current phasing is not conducive for the market. So I'm excited to hear that we're going to be working on updating the phasing so that the market isn't impacted. And I'm really excited to see what that new timeline is going to look like. But beyond that, I guess my question is, looking at the bigger scope of the project, there's going to be, I imagine, some minimal impact to the market either way. So I guess I'm wondering what the plan is for staging the area as far as construction staging goes. As far as construction equipment goes, that was a pretty persistent problem with the gas line construction project for the past 2 summers. Like, there was equipment and permits that were left inside the market, even though the work days weren't on Saturdays, which was great. The market operations were disrupted, right? We couldn't put vendors in the same spots that they would be every week because of an ongoing project. So just like, how is that going to be mitigated in addition to the phasing?
So I will say this, I appreciate the question, Evan. Because we're not going to be doing any construction in that area during the summer months in the late spring, we don't anticipate having any type of staging or equipment anywhere close to that area. We're going to be working in other areas where the contractors will be behind concrete barriers and staging and storing their materials in those work areas. So certainly we do not anticipate having equipment close to where you all are going to have the farmers market, which is one of the primary reasons why we wanted to kind of understand on Saturdays how that area is cordoned off. And you know, myself and folks on this call have already been out to the community to understand that layout.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Andrew. I guess I'm wondering if there's a way that we can maybe touch base offline a little bit more about like the specifics of the farmers market layout, because I think, and Peyton, I'm going to send you a message about this as well. And this is not just related to this construction project, but I think universally farmers markets often get missed in like business communication, right? Because we're not there all the time when you're trying to talk to businesses and residents. So I feel like there hasn't been a lot of communication from DDOT or really anyone on your team with the market itself, and like with me and the other people who manage
the operations of the farmers market. So I think it would be great to kind of hammer down the details and give you some more specific renderings and maps of what our market looks like. I'd be happy to send along that collateral to you. I think that'd be really helpful just for everyone's benefit. And then my last kind of question about the market specific to impact is, someone might have mentioned this earlier, but we do permits in a couple different ways, which require us to like submit maps to DDOT, traffic control plans. I'm sure if anyone is familiar with the permitting process, you know about those. We have to update them regularly for any construction within a 3-block radius, right? They're supposed to show real world conditions. They're supposed to show how we're keeping pedestrians, shoppers, vendors safe, and they want to be updated to be live and reflective of what the street looks like, which means that for the next 2 summers, as this project goes on, there's probably going to be construction within a 3-block radius of the farmers market for most, if not all, of these next 2 summers. And I'm just wondering if there's a plan in place to support the farmers market in updating those documents consistently, which is a requirement we have to adhere to with DDOT to keep our permits up to date with them, right? If you guys are doing construction and it's not updated on our map, DDOT can revoke our permit. So it feels like that's kind of an unforeseen negative effect that could happen. And the cost of doing those maps and applying for those permits is incredibly prohibitive for a nonprofit, which we are, right? We operate farmers markets with mostly a food access goal in mind, connecting people in the community to fruits and vegetables. So that's not a cost that we could easily absorb. So I'm just wondering if there are plans in place to support us with that because of the construction, or who I could talk to about like the specifics of that.
Yeah, I would encourage you to reach out to Peyton. Certainly we understand the predicament, and certainly we are more than happy to see what we can do to help in that arena, in that area.
Cool, great. Well, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you all, to just echo what everyone else has said. Thank you so much for this presentation. I think it's been really, really helpful, and we're definitely excited to hear that the phasing is going to be worked on a little bit, and appreciate you trying to have a minimal impact on the market.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you,
thank
Evan.
you.
Please, reach out to me. Shoot me an email and we'll set up a meeting. We can talk.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be in touch. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to go over, but I really appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you. Corey, I'm going to lower your hand because I think we covered you. If I didn't, please just lower it, raise it again, and I'll make sure that we. Okay, gotcha. Commissioner Amine, I did unmute you, so we should be able to hear you now.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real quick. Can you go to the slide on Georgia and Kennedy? I just want to make sure. I'm not gonna advocate for anything different, but I just want to understand. I'm seeing. Sorry. Yeah.
Keep going.
Oh, Georgia and Kennedy. I'm sorry.
Georgia and
Georgia,
Kennedy.
yeah.
The bus. Yeah.
I just want to understand. Okay. Actually, my concern is not that. I thought you were doing the picture that's included on the slide that has your email, Peyton, had a picture of that little strip, but it's not part of the project. I just wanted to. Okay. No worries.
We just liked. We just liked.
It is indicative of the neighborhood. Yes.
It was a beautiful mural. It was a beautiful mural.
But that strip of road right there is actually not part of the project.
That's outside the project limit. Okay, I have a call-in user. I believe your 240 number. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and we should be able to hear you.
I think.
Did the hand go down?
Yeah, I think that hand went down.
Hand went down. Okay, sorry if you.
Nope, it's back up.
We're back. Okay, I'm going to unmute you. Let's see. Apologies, it's taking a second to register the unmuting.
And Peyton, do you agree that that's probably going to be the last question that we're going to have time to address today?
Yeah.
Hi,
Agreed.
good
Yes.
evening. I apologize. I joined late if you answered this. How far are you moving the buses, or the bus is going to be moved at the intersections of 14th and Colorado and Georgia? Because, you know, Metro always runs late, and the way the roads are configured now, you can transfer very easily with the way the lights are to the 70 bus if you're coming off the E4, or to the 50 buses at Kennedy when you're coming off of the E4. And if you're moving the bus stops, how far down? Are you moving it beyond Illinois and beyond 14th? How far each way?
Mohammed, can you address this? I didn't think we are moving any bus stops along
Yeah,
14th
so
Street.
at this picture right here, if I understand the question correctly, we did not move the bus stop far away. We just kind of flipped them. For example, you see 14th Street, the bus stop will be to the left of the, once you pass Kennedy, to the left, and by the bus depot, it's going to be in the right, where you see there's like a yellow hatches, like yellow, that's where the bus stop will be future. So if you can look to the after where it says 14th, yep. So that's yellow. That's where the bus stop will be here. So it's not gonna move much from this picture we see, or this slide we see in front of us.
Okay, and what about at Georgia? Because when I was looking at the slides, it was saying it's going to be moved to the far side. Is it going to be further down Georgia beyond Illinois? Like it's because right now it's at the carryout and in front of the mural, so it's going to be further down. Like I guess there's an apartment building or condo construction after Illinois.
You mean
Kennedy?
further east on Kennedy from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Georgia.
No, not this one. No, but there's bus stops affected also in other. I don't know if you have it in the slides here, but these ones we're not intending, or with Omar coordination, we're not moving any bus stop away from where it's supposed to be. So it's within the allowed limit. So, but if there's bus stop you're talking in Georgia, let's go and check that. But nothing that's in our design has moved any bus stop away from its original or normal condition. Just within.
Okay, because when I was reading it, it says you're moving it to the far side.
When they
so
say far side means the opposite side. So it's going to be at
Yes.
the same location, but at the opposite side.
Yes.
But the bus is going both directions. It goes towards Friendship and towards Fort Totten. So where will you catch it if you're moving it when you say far side? Like, for example, if you're going to Friendship Heights, currently it's in front of, or it's the side of Simon's Carryout, right there. So when you say far side, it's going to move to the other side of Georgia Avenue.
So, ma'am, I think if you understand my answer is I will move it, yes, in the same street. So if you zoom in, please, Andre, for the picture, so I can guide her exactly where.
Yeah, I'm not controlling it. I
You're
think
not
it's in.
controlling.
I don't think we'll be able to zoom in just because it's a
That's
presentation.
fine. But I think, ma'am, I could answer you with after this, because it may, I don't want to just speak and you may misunderstand me. Let me respond to you formally with the answer to that one, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
no problem. I'll reach out. Thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
So, thank you, everybody. I did note a few things. I see there are a lot of questions about the DC Plug project. There will be a public meeting coming up for that. You'll get notification to your door and emailed out. I can send it out to everybody that was on the call today. We really appreciate everybody attending. Please feel free, if you have any questions that weren't answered or you want some more clarity on, send me an email. Again, my email is Peyton, Peyton @tbaconnects.com. And then also to my team member, Enora, ENORA @tbaconnects.com. I really appreciate everybody for coming out tonight. And we're looking forward to a successful implementation of this project. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.